Nothing cuts deeper than watching your own family lose faith in you. When 52-year-old Eli Mercer lost his job and inherited what looked like a pile of rusted metal and weeds, even his kids rolled their eyes. Everyone called it a worthless inheritance, an abandoned train station out in the Oregon mountains that hadn't seen a train in half a century. The roof sagged, the walls were crawling with vines, and the platform looked ready to collapse. But when Eli stepped onto those overgrown tracks, something in his gut whispered that this place still had a story to tell. He was broke, jobless, and one more missed payment from losing everything. But somehow, that empty station felt alive. What started as a desperate man's last chance quickly turned into the most unbelievable discovery of his life. Because beneath those forgotten tracks, under years of dirt and history, was a secret so valuable it had been hidden for 70 years. A secret worth $300 million. His family would soon stop laughing. But as the world learned what Eli found, powerful people started moving in the shadows. They wanted it. And Eli, a quiet man who had already lost everything, was about to find out what it meant to fight for something bigger than himself. It started with a letter, one of those official envelopes you never expect to see your name on. Inside was a deed from a firm called Morrison and Associates. Upon the death of Harold James Mercer, it read, you are hereby designated as sole inheritor of the Cascade Falls Railroad Station and surrounding property. Eli had to read it 3 times before it sank in. His great-uncle Harold, a quiet man who sent $5 bills in Christmas cards, had left him a train station. Not a fortune, not land, but a broken shell of a building. And still, for a man whose life had unraveled, a lost marriage, a foreclosure notice on the fridge, and kids who barely called, it was something. He packed his old pickup truck, drove through the misty Oregon forests, and reached a place time had forgotten. Cascade Falls was a ghost town, 6 blocks of silence, a flickering diner sign, and faces that looked at strangers a little too long. Inside that diner, an old woman named Martha said something that stuck with him. Your great-uncle never missed a Tuesday here for 20 years, she told him. Paid taxes on that place every year like it was sacred ground. Eli didn't know it yet, but she was right. That decaying station had been hiding something so dangerous. Harold Mercer had spent 50 years guarding it. The road to the station twisted through thick woods until the trees opened into a clearing. And there it stood, the Cascade Falls Railroad Station. Faded, crooked, but solid. Its timber beams were dark with rain and time, its water tower leaning like it had given up halfway through the last century. The air smelled of cedar, moss, and something ancient. Inside, dust floated like ghosts in sunlight. Wooden benches lined the walls, a ticket window still had coins in its drawer, and an office sat exactly as someone had left it decades ago. On the desk lay old logbooks, yellowed paper filled with dates, arrivals, and strange entries that didn't match any public records. In the corner, under a loose floorboard, he found a conductor's key, ornate, military-looking, with markings he couldn't identify. That night, Eli sat on the platform, staring down the forgotten tracks disappearing into the forest. Somewhere in the distance, he swore he heard the faint echo of a train whistle. Locals had whispered about a ghost train that vanished here during the Cold War, carrying cargo that was never found. At the time, he dismissed it as superstition. But within days, Eli would learn that the story wasn't just true. It was bigger than anything the town of Cascade Falls could have ever imagined. The next morning, Eli started cleaning the station, determined to bring it back to life. But as he wiped away decades of dust, he uncovered pieces of a forgotten puzzle. The logbook he'd found mentioned something called Special Transport 847. Each entry was written in precise cursive. Manifest sealed, passengers unidentified, engineer received new routing instructions. And then silence. No record of a departure, no destination, no follow-up. The date was March 17, 1953, the day the ghost train was said to vanish. Beneath the logbook, he found maps of the canyon showing a tunnel through the ridge that had been sealed after the railroad shut down. As the wind howled through the empty platform, Eli's phone buzzed. The number was unknown. "Mr. Mercer," the voice said, calm but firm. "I represent a client interested in your property. We can offer $200,000 cash if you agree to sell immediately." Eli froze. No one had known about the station. How did they find him so fast? He looked at the tracks disappearing into the forest and whispered, "What did you hide her?" "Here, Uncle Harold." Eli's search led him to Mrs. Chen, the local historian whose father once worked for the railroad. Her home smelled of old paper and ginger tea. She laid out yellowed photographs of the station from 1953, and there on one of them was a train unlike any other. 3 men in dark coats stood beside sealed freight cars with military insignia, and one car had doors reinforced like a vault. "My father took this photo," she said. "That train came through in the middle of the night." He said they inspected the tunnel, asked about load capacity, then vanished before dawn. She showed Eli her father's notes, government men, sealed manifests, and questions about storage facilities under Canyon Ridge. Eli felt a chill. There had been no mention of any tunnels in his inheritance documents, yet the maps in Harold's desk matched her notes exactly. Mrs. Chen lowered her voice. "Your uncle wasn't eccentric, Mr. Mercer. He was a guardian. He knew what that train carried." She handed him a copy of a telegram her father had once found. The words were chilling. "Transport 847 failed to arrive destination. Maintain operational secrecy. Assume delay." Eli understood then the train hadn't just vanished. It had been hidden. Days later, Eli pried open a false panel in the old desk. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a sealed government envelope stamped Department of State, March 1953. The wax had been broken once before by Harold Mercer himself. Inside were documents so explosive they could rewrite history. A manifest listed items under code names. Recovered assets, Eastern European origin diplomatic materials. One line froze Eli in place. Strategic materials, temporary storage pending congressional review. Another paper was a memorandum between the CIA and the State Department, referencing Operation Safe Haven. The translation was simple: Nazi gold. The train had been moving stolen war treasure, gold bars, bonds, priceless art, assets looted from Europe during World War II. But something went wrong, and the cargo vanished before reaching Washington. As Eli stared at those papers, the air seemed to shift. His family inheritance wasn't just land. It was a vault, a graveyard of secrets buried under a mountain. Outside, in the cold wind, he could almost hear Uncle Harold's voice. "Some things are worth guarding, even if the world forgets why." By the weekend, the secret was no longer his alone. 2 black SUVs rolled up the mountain road, crunching gravel like thunder. Marcus Vale stepped out, flanked by men in suits who moved like soldiers. "Mr. Mercer," Vale said smoothly, "it's time we talked about national security." Behind him, the men spread out, one near Eli's truck, another scanning the tree line. Eli's pulse thudded. He positioned himself between them and his children, who had come to help clean that morning. "You need to leave," he said. Vale smiled without warmth. "You've found materials that belong to the federal government. We're here to recover them and ensure your cooperation." Eli saw it in their eyes. They knew about the documents, the photos, maybe even the tunnel, but they weren't just agents. They were hunters sent by someone who didn't want the truth unearthed. The conversation ended with a warning that chilled him. "Take our offer or this place will swallow you whole." That night, Eli packed the documents, the keys, and the map into a waterproof case. His great-uncle had spent 50 years protecting the secret. Now it was Eli's turn, and this time the danger was closing in fast. The next morning, as the fog rolled through the valley, Eli and his son Jake uncovered one last secret, a hand-drawn map hidden under the desk's false bottom. It showed a vast underground chamber directly beneath mile marker 847, labeled emergency storage. Eli traced the lines with his trembling finger, realizing the chamber sat under the very spot where the mysterious train had last been seen. He looked at his son, eyes wide with both fear and wonder. "This," he whispered, "is where it ended." The discovery was more than treasure. It was history, stolen, buried, and almost forgotten. Somewhere beneath the mountains of Oregon, a Cold War vault still waited to be opened. Eli knew the truth could change everything, but it could also destroy him. The world above had already started watching. As his truck disappeared down the mountain road, one question echoed in the wind. Would he uncover the lost gold or vanish like the train that carried it? And as always, before you go, tell me where you're listening from. Because next time we're following Eli Mercer back into that tunnel. What he finds there will change everything. So hit subscribe and stay tuned. The story isn't over yet.